Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. He's the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee, also a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, thanks very much for joining us. I want to discuss Brian Todd's report about this new ISIS video in a moment, but let's talk about this very worrisome situation developing between Iran and Saudi Arabia. How concerned are you that this could escalate into some sort of real war between these two powers?
Well, hello, Wolf. Happy New Year. Not a real promising start. I'm highly concerned. And what I think, unfortunately, what we're witnessing right now is a strategic realignment within the Middle East. And I think it really talks about how the folly of the Iranian nuclear agreement that has actually emboldened Iran is not modified. He's modified their behavior for the worse. And so we need to be incredibly concerned. Let's face it, for both Iran and Russia, a destabilized Saudi Arabia would be a good thing. It could spike or increase oil prices, which is harming both of their economies right now. So this is something that we really need to be concerned about.
Because the Russians have been working closely with the Iranians, as you correctly point out. The State Department spokesman here in Washington, John Kirby, says the U.S., at least for now, doesn't plan on being a mediator in all of this. But given the stakes involved, is that wise?
Well, Wolf, the reason things have spun so out of control is, again, the historic blunder of not leaving a stabilizing force behind Iraq. And so now the situation is spinning out of control. The region is destabilized. And listen, I don't think America can be the world's policeman, but when it's in our national interest, and I think a stable Middle East is in our national interest, we need to stabilize. We need to be a stabilizing force. And so whether we like it or not, the events in the Middle East are going to be spilling over. We see the refugee flow into Europe. You see the destabilization now with Shia going after Sunni in a very open manner here because of the split now between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Again, you've always had the tensions there, but it's gotten far, way out of control. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Saudi Arabia no longer looks at the United States as a reliable ally.
We know they didn't like that Iranian nuclear deal. The United Arab Emirates didn't like it either. And of course, the Israelis didn't like it as well. I want to play a bit of a conversation I had last March with the Saudi Minister of Foreign Affairs. He was then the Saudi ambassador here in Washington, Adel Al-Jubeir. I want to get your reaction. Listen to this exchange I had with the foreign minister. Under what circumstances would the kingdom, Saudi Arabia, build a nuclear bomb to try to counterbalance an Iranian nuclear bomb?
Well, this is not something that we would discuss publicly, Wolf. This is not something that I can comment on, and nor would I comment on. But the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will take whatever measures are necessary in order to protect its security. There are two things, Wolf, over which we do not negotiate: our faith and our security.
Given the tensions right now, Senator, between Iran and Saudi Arabia, there's concern, I know it from sources that I've spoken to, the Saudis may, when all is said and done, simply go out, not necessarily even develop or build a nuclear bomb, but just buy one, maybe from Pakistan. They certainly have the cash to do so. Is that really credible?
It certainly was a concern of many of us that opposed the Iran nuclear agreement, was that this could actually produce a proliferation of a nuclear arms race within the Middle East. And I think that's certainly a real risk that we have to take into account. Saudi has good relationships with Pakistan. They could just buy a weapon and, again, further destabilize the Middle East.
Yeah, this is a real worrisome situation. Senator, I'd like you to stand by. We have more to discuss. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. We're following several breaking developments in Tehran, burned the Saudi embassy. We're back with the chairman of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, Ron Johnson. He's a Republican of Wisconsin. He's also a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, what's your fear right now, the worst that could happen, especially the impact of this escalating tensions between Iran and Saudi Arabia on the broader fight against ISIS?
Well, I really do fear a really big push to destabilize the Saudi regime. Now, let's face it, Wolf, the judicial systems of Iran and Saudi Arabia, neither of these things are my cup of tea. But I think we're really noticing that Sharia law is not particularly compatible with Western democracy. So, at least the Saudis want to be our friends and our allies. Iran is our self-proclaimed enemy. And so I'm highly concerned about the lifting of the sanctions. We'll be pumping tens, eventually hundreds of billions of dollars into the economy and military of our self-proclaimed enemy in Iran. And we know Iran and Russia, quite honestly, would like to see the House of Assad fall and be destabilized. That'd be horrible for the region. It would not be good for the United States.
So could this escalating tension between these two countries dramatically weaken the effort to destroy ISIS?
Absolutely. If events spin out of control there, I mean, let's face it, Saudi Arabia and Iran are already fighting a proxy war in Yemen. And so this is just going to fuel those flames and could further destabilize the region. And again, if you don't have a stabilized Middle East, no telling what happens to oil prices. And of course, higher oil prices is good for Putin. It's good for Iran.
As you know, there are these reports out there that the Saudi government knew this mass execution, including of this top Shiite leader, the beheadings of some of these individuals would spark this kind of backlash. So why do you think they did this?
Yeah, I can't psychoanalyze the Saudis, but if you really want to talk about a brutal regime that executes a lot of people, look at Iran. So it really is the pot calling the kettle black. I don't think you really need a whole lot of justification for these two nations to hate each other. And again, without America's stabilizing presence there, things are spinning out of control, and it's very concerning.
You saw the Brian Todd report on this new jihadist video that ISIS just released, the new so-called junior jihadi. John, what do you make of it?
It's chilling. I've read reports of the training by ISIS of very young children that are probably captured, obviously forced to join their military, but now they're going to be brainwashed. These are very young people that are going to be growing up within the system. They're going to get desensitized to this barbarity. It really shows why we have to defeat ISIS before this training, this continuation of this caliphate continues.
The concern I've been told by U.S. officials, this kind of propaganda video, actually, as sick as it sounds, actually does work in terms of recruiting new ISIS terrorists. Do you buy that?
Well, just take a look at your earlier report where a British father is concerned about his daughter who was drawn and actually emigrated to the caliphate, and now it's his 4-year-old grandson that's in the video. So yeah, this unfortunately does inspire people. That's why ISIS has to be defeated. It's not going to just inspire people just in England or Europe. It's obviously inspired people here in the United States. It's a real and growing threat, Wolf.
It certainly is. All right, Senator, thanks very much for joining us.